So hello everyone and a warm welcome to today's SAP Community Partner Call about IT operations and business operations optimization with SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation. Today you are going to learn what our partner NTT DATA and their customer Rodan Fields have jointly achieved by having a closer look at three of the use cases realized within their joint project. So you see we have three speakers. We have Deepak Bhatter, who is the GTM and solution lead for S/4HANA Intelligent Technologies at NTT DATA. And then we have our customer, Santosh George. He's the director of Rodan Fields for Enterprise Platform Services. And we have our partner manager for SAP Intelligent RPA, Stephan Koenig. So welcome to you all. I'm really happy that you are on the call today. And let me briefly talk again about the Q&A, which we are going to have. So we save some time after the presentation for your questions, but you can use already the Q&A functionality of Zoom, where you can submit your question during the call already. When you hover over the bottom of your screen, you see the Q&A, and when you click on this, you can submit your question. And we kindly ask you to only use the Q&A and not the chat. You can use, of course, the chat as well for any other thing. There I would recommend that you click on the chat, then close to the to field you see this little arrow, and there you choose everyone so that you can chat with the attendees. That's all from my side. Now I hand over to you, Deepak, and you can start with your presentation.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. So today, for the meeting today, the presentation, we have an agenda. You already got the introductions about us, and we'll be giving brief about Rodan Fields and about NTT DATA. What is that we have learned over the years using Intelligent RPA, iRPA to optimize IT and business processes. And how do we fit into a framework called Extreme Automation, which NTT DATA has developed? And what are the use cases which we have deployed for IT operations as well as business operations optimization? And we'll have Santosh speak about basically the use cases which we considered and what we implemented, and we'll have a brief demo on those areas as well. So turning it over to Rodan Fields, about Rodan Fields, Santosh.
Thanks, Deepak. Hi, my name is Santosh George, and I manage enterprise platforms at Rodan Fields. Rodan Fields is a skincare products company, and we are headquartered in San Francisco. Next slide. And we are rated as the #1 premium skincare brand in the US for several years, and also in several other categories. So we are in the premium skincare sector, and we're pretty high up there. Next slide. And just so that you understand the background of the company, where we are from, or where we're positioned, we were founded by two doctors. So we are a doctor brand founded by two Stanford-educated dermatologists. A lot of our products are multi-med therapy, which means it's like regimens. So you have a series of products that you go through, which is, for example, starting from a cleanser all the way to a moisturizer. Okay, and one of our branding is that our results are very visible. People can definitely make out the difference between before and after. And the other unique thing about us is our sales is all done through a network of independent consultants who do the sales. All these are people who run their own businesses, and they take care of the sales for our business. Next slide. So again, in summary, our model is three-pronged. We have a strong brand. We have a community of advocates who, like I said, who are independent consultants who sell our product, and then we are digitally driven. And digitization is the core, is the heart of our business. And the reason why digital is so important for us is because even though we market or sell through our network, but we are a direct to consumer. So we the end consumer places an order on our system on our e-commerce systems. We charge the customer and we ship it to the customer. So, and we also support our consultant base with the tools needed to help them sell as well. So that's so digital is very, very core to our business. Next slide. And just in terms of where we are going with our business, or what are the key drivers for our business, innovation, which means newer, better products. That's obviously a key driver. We were a company that started in 2007, and in about 10 years we hit $1 billion from scratch. And now we're looking at expanding into other markets as well. We are in Canada, Australia, Japan, and we'll probably go into other countries in the next few years. Again, like I said, the crux, the core of our business is consumer connected commerce with more and more selling through the social media and so on. So again, a lot of emphasis there. And from a consumer base point of view, we are also focusing on diversification of our consumer base and our consultant base. So the diversity in terms of people. So next slide. Yeah. So just to get into more specifics, we are a SAP company from SAP. We implemented SAP ERP about 6 years back, and we've been a SAP customer since then. We have hybrid e-commerce that we use for all the commerce activities. We also have other tools like Gigia, Data Warehouse Cloud. We are big into iRPA now, so we are a big SAP customer. Like I said, we are direct to the consumer. Some of the unique things of our business is that we have about 3 million active customers. When I say active, people who have placed an order in the last, let's say, 2 years. And we have about 3,000 consultants. And in terms of order volume, we have about 1 million order line items per month. And we do all of this with just less than 700 employees. So we are highly leveraged, very few employees for the size of our business. So I'll talk a lot more about what we have done in the iRPA space and so on. This was just to give you a little bit of background on the company so that when we talk about the iRPA use cases, you can relate to that. So handing it back to you, Deepak.
Thank you, Santosh, and thanks for the great background on Rodan Fields and its products. Talking about NTT DATA, we've been around for three plus decades. And actively participating in the SAP community, supporting our customers with their transformations. We are 16,000 plus associates worldwide, 2.2 billion in services revenue. And what we get from SAP is continuously Pinnacle Awards for the last 13 years in a row. And also what we have is for 21 years, we are recognized by basically the analyst community, such as Gartner, Nielsen, Howell, Foresters of the world. Our goal is to be a trusted advisor to our customers, bring in the industry expertise, and provide end-to-end solutions. We are one of the basically early adopters of S/4HANA. And so, globally, we have gone live with 200 plus 82 customers. There are 350 projects underway, basically in addition to the live implementations. And we are supporting customers in addition to that. And what we are doing is we are bringing some of these BTP technology stacks, such as basically iRPA, to our customers through these projects and introducing them to the digital transformation. In terms of our practices, practice capabilities, we focus on consulting services, starting with the advisory activities, giving them insight into what should be the strategy and roadmap, do the implementations, modernization, and management. And especially in the advisory consulting services, a lot of digital transformation-related conversations happen. We have a focus on certain set of industries: automotive, life sciences, consumer products, retail, where Rodan Fields businesses, distribution, chemicals, and industrial machinery. So how do we optimize the business and IT operations? So it is something which we have been working at it for the last couple of years. We call it as extreme automation. 7X framework, and we'll get into the details of it. And what it constitutes is the set of IPs which are developed within NTT DATA, and also from partners like from partners like SAP, so that it is a holistic set of solutions, which is basically covering many aspects around automation. And these automations are applied for the backend IT operations, and we'll see what kind of IT operations we are talking about. And then, of course, we are very familiar that RPA applies to the business processes, but we have been successfully able to apply for IT operations as well and implement it for our customers. And we have some use cases to share with you as well. A brief update on the extreme automation framework. So we have several pillars on this wheel which focus on automation. Our focus for the discussion is going to be on the process as well as platform, which is primarily, basically SAP platform. But in addition to that, there are several areas for automation. We consider it as tool chain, which is the DevOps for SAP. Application lifecycle, where you're doing SAP upgrades or applying patches or archiving. There are activities which you have to perform, and NTT DATA brings in the tools and capabilities for you to do that. In terms of user experience, there are solutions to automate the user experience, your end user, your basically IT business users, in terms of what kind of issues they are having. Automating the activities around like data quality and visibility, availability. Process is not only bringing basically iRPA, but also combining it with business process intelligence, which is process mining. So we've been able to successfully combine these two and really drive significant outcomes for our customers. And then, of course, platform, what we have is basically, these are the virtual engineers which use iRPA to drive automation, monitoring, and basically alert resolution. Yeah. In terms of IT operations optimization, basically what we have developed is as a set of parts which sort of cater to this. So the first one is to automate monitoring of your SAP system, looking at the alerts. So there are a set of dashboards which we have used, we have developed with the help of Solution Manager, and then use these dashboards to kind of look at the alerts which are coming in, and be able to, do the disposition and take next steps. So the key is there are several scenarios which we see on the basis side, on the configuration side. So this is just a glimpse of what are the different use cases, right? So looking at the file system monitoring part, which is basically to automate file system monitoring and alert resolution. System maintenance, automating some of the SAP system maintenance activity. Some of the activities which are happening, for example, you have log entries at the table level, failed updates, some monitoring alerts which are coming in, whether it is for PIPO monitoring or even from the basis side. So we are able to bake in all these alerts and be able to drive a specific resolution with IT operations optimization. There are other use cases looking at, hey, high CPU, high memory, table space utilization alerts. So this is where we are using iRPA to really do the alert resolution coming in. And then it has a lot of benefits. You are basically doing proactive problem avoidance, minimize time to resolution, reduce the overall cost, right? So what we have done is, at NTT, the automation journey started really, really early. So we have around 2,600 plus bots built for various SAP applications or surround applications for end-to-end processes. So our basically approach is to start with the assessment, then identify, quantify, qualify, and basically review. And the way continuous automation happens is we follow the Scrum-based Agile model, and we are constantly building and developing and demoing to our stakeholders. So here is a use case I would like to talk about for our SAP Intelligent RPA, basically how we deployed this for this customer. Now, so the use case is very, very interesting. They have, I mean, this is a med devices customer. It's a global major, which has 20 billion in revenue, and they grew significantly during the pandemic. So they have a lot of, capacity or the bandwidth issues because there's so much work which was coming in, right? And one of the things which was causing the bottleneck was significant increase in the configuration activity. And this is basically low-level configuration. For example, I'm creating basically MRP controller or accounting clerk. So some of this are very, very routine configuration, but what happens is because you have to go through configuration, it's like a master data, but it takes a lot of time for you to maintain and update and then get through the cycle. So it takes you probably a week's time, and it involves approximately 18 steps. So their request to us was how we can optimize this, the overall effort here. So what we did is it included several applications, and we'll see through that, what kind of application landscape, pretty complex application landscape in terms of, doing these handoffs. So we looked at the landscape. It included SAP, of course, ECC. It had Charm, Solution Manager, ServiceNow, and then also SharePoint applications, right? So combining all of these together and make it work, was the whole agenda. So the bottom line is we used basically iRPA to do system configuration, do the testing, and then basically move the transport, which is generally done by a functional consultant. So what we did is we developed a bot for, as we call it, as standard change configuration, right? Standard changes. So here, basically bot reads from a ServiceNow Excel input file for the standard changes which are coming in. It creates a charm request for the charm portal, creates a transport request, and does the configuration change and assigns the transport request. Releases the transport request, which is generally, it is done by a functional resource. Testing is performed. Test results are sent via the email for approval. So we have used basically iRPA for test automation as well. Generally, you will have a separate tool to do the test automation and then capture your test logs and test results, which is something which we avoided in this case. We use the same solution to run through end to end. And then, of course, there are significant benefits, and we'll get into the details of some of those benefits and the cost savings. But at the same time, what they really achieved is the speed and the significant time reduction. Slightly busy slide, but it gives you all the 18 steps which are involved here, right? So as you can see, the first one is where we are creating a change request. This is manual, of course. And once that is done, then it is captured in the ServiceNow in your ITSM portal. Also, it is captured in an Excel file. Then from an Excel file, bot picks it up and it creates a charm request, right? Then it goes into the transport request creation. It is making the necessary changes in the dev environment, right? And then it is linking the changes to the transport request. It is releasing the transport. Then once the transport is released, and then it is again releasing the transport in Charm portal, right? Then the unit testing is happening in the quality environment, and then we move the Charm request, and then basically, and then there are several steps which are happening, and then it goes into the UAT. There are activities performed by the bot in UAT, which is supposed to be done by the business users, and the bot capturing the test results and then sending it to the stakeholders, and basically then it goes into the implement state. Obviously, we are not moving it to production, but in addition to this, what is happening is the bot is also creating the documentation with all the screenshots, storing this documentation in the SharePoint. so that it is available, and then capturing the link from the SharePoint and then posting it into the ServiceNow with the specific ticket where the whole thing originated. And once the approval comes from the stakeholders, it is looking for the approval email from the stakeholders as well. And it is basically closing the ServiceNow ticket as well. So the entire cycle, except transporting it to production, is done by the bot. And here are the savings, which basically, according to the customer, like, before automation and after automation, and it dropped significantly. This is where they were taking the time, like before automation, and as the automation came in, so the total time savings or the percentage effort saving is around 91.67%. Now coming back to Rodan Fields, the whole journey started in discussion with Santosh, how we can look at optimizing the processes. Santosh, you want to cover how we looked at different process areas, how we prioritize different use cases. Santosh, over to you.
Sure. Yeah, so NTT is our AMS provider for all of SAP. They help us support the platform as well as also for projects. So when Deepak and team brought in this capability, and then we started evaluating that, we started looking at the different areas. Obviously, finance is a very common area for automation. So that's one area we looked at. Then supply chain, IT, HR, not too much on the HR side, but mainly supply chain and then IT as well. And we were looking at what do we pick first. So this was our first initiative, and we had some criteria. And while we're evaluating that, and I'll talk through that. I think it's in the next slide. Deepak. Yeah. So let me cover this first. I think it's the slide is the next one, but that's okay. So before that, why did we choose iRPA, right? There were other people who talk, other vendors who talk to us as well. And one thing that worked really well here is the licensing structure is very, very easy. So when we started the thing, we found out that we already had the licenses. So it was more of a consumption model. We just use whatever we have, the licenses that we have, and we could consume the capability. Yeah. The other thing is there's native access to SAP, like RFC calls and so on. It was easy build and deployment. And then the other thing that really SAP helped us with is anytime we have an issue or something, they would bring in other resources and provide us expertise guidance in terms of what to use and where we can get additional functionality and so on. So SAP has been really, really helpful there. And then there's a lot of pre-built apps. The other thing we're also noticing is that we did a lot through the desktop studio, which is building it now. There's also the cloud studio, which is even more versatile and powerful. So overall, great product, great support, and it lends itself very well to what we already have. So that was the reason. So let's go to the next slide, which is yeah. So this is talking about use cases. How did we identify the use cases, right? So obviously, taking the big high transactional volume is the straightforward business case. So if you can, save 20% per person's time and 4 people, you save one FTE. That's the most straightforward business case. What we saw is that this is our personal experience. I'm not saying that this would be the same experience with everybody. But what we saw is a lot of the things that automated, we already automated it with the back jobs or things like that, right? So there was not too much. We didn't think it was worthwhile to now go put iRPA on that because it's already working. To disturb that process and start again with the different process didn't make sense. Where we saw the value more was in areas that had multiple touch points. So in other words, if you have a process that requires multiple people touching it, and that depends on their schedule, you need to get everybody together, it needs multiple things, and that lead time, So reducing the lead time was really where we thought there is value here, at least to start off. Just as an example, if you were to do, let's say, new onboarding of a new employee. Let's say you got to give them access to the HR system, you got to give them access to the ERP system, maybe a thing. So somebody would have to log into each of these systems, set them up. So that's a very classic example, but I can talk about a few more examples later in our case. So that's where we saw the big benefit of iRPA. And what that gives you, it may not translate into this much of savings in terms of hours of labor, but what it does is it cuts down the lead time significantly. Just as an example, if the bot were able to run before people come into office and tell them exactly what needs to be done, that whole lead time in people exchanging emails after they come in the morning is saved, and that's exactly where we focused our use cases on. And since this was our first venture into RPA, we were a little bit careful that we didn't want to touch a serious business process. We didn't want to, if there's a mistake, we didn't want, if you make a mistake at high volume, obviously there's a lot more correction that's needed, right? So we took the lower risk cases to start with, right? And obviously at the beginning stage, we have a lot more plans to build this further, but that's how we started. So I'm going to talk about 3 use cases. Okay, one is inventory reconciliation, the other is order processing, error handling, and the other one is the third one is an automation of inbound creation of what is called inbound delivery. So inventory reconciliation, the process our inventory is managed at what is known as 3PLs or third-party logistics providers. And we have 4 third-party logistics providers in 4 different countries, and they send their snapshot of the inventory every night. And we compare that with our SAP inventory. And as much as we have real-time interfaces between them, there is always errors due to either missing transactions, something stuck somewhere, and so on. And so to get our MRP process accurate and our demand planning process is accurate, we make sure that the inventory is accurate every day. Okay, and the process for that is we do a comparison of snapshots from the 3PLs to SAP every day morning, and there is a cross-functional team, there is a business team, the inventory, business, supply chain person, IT folks, and they have like a half-an-hour meeting or 1-hour meeting, look at the discrepancies, and then they find out where are the problem areas and address that. And they do that every day. So what we were able to do is we were able to automate that whole process, that what people do actually physically check and find out if there's any differences. We were able to identify those differences and email out the details to each of these people right up front in the morning itself before they come in, telling them, okay, here are the documents that have a discrepancy, and here is the discrepancy, yeah, and people can take action. So that's what we did. We'll get into that in detail in a minute. In terms of order processing, yeah, maybe we can do that. Deepak.
No, go ahead.
Go to the next. For order processing, for order processing, order intake comes through Hybris, and then it passes on to SAP ECC for fulfillment. And that interface is handled through iDocs, right? It's iDocs created by through the Hybris system that lands into SAP, or rather the messages that come from Hybris creates iDocs in SAP, and that is processed through. And very often there are errors. When I say very often there are errors, we process, like I showed earlier, about 1 million order line items per month. So even if you have 1% errors, it is 10,000 errors, which takes a long time to handle. Right? So we did the bot. What it does is it goes and looks at the iDocs, and based on the iDoc type, iDoc category, it can take action there. And the third one was creating inbound delivery from packing slips. So we use subcontractors for manufacturing a product, and they send it to the warehouse after they manufacture the product. And the way they notify us is they send us something called they actually send a packing slip with other details, and they do it via email, right? And somebody takes that details in and keys in and creates an inbound delivery for receipt at the warehouse. So what we are doing, and we haven't completed this yet, but we're working on this bit where the bot will take the inbound delivery, the PDF document, read that, and automatically create the inbound delivery in SAP, which is totally done manually. And one of the challenges there is the format of the packing slip from different vendors. They have a different format, a slightly different format, and for the bot to identify exactly what is your purchase order number, what is your material number, the tracking number, and so on, and update SAP. So that's a challenge. So let's get into more detail on the very first one. Next slide. So again, like I described earlier, the inventory reconciliations is between the external warehouse and SAP. And what we feed the bot is the daily, what were the daily shipments made, what were the inventory movements made at the warehouse, what were the stock transport orders between warehouses. And there's another nuance there that sometimes the warehouses will receive something, it'll be on the dock. They haven't sent us a message, but they have included in the inventory. So the different operational problems on the warehouse side. Now the bot takes all this information and all these information is automated. The 3PLs just send us emails, and the bot picks up the emails and processes it. It all comes into a single email box. And what it'll look for is it'll look for failed IDOC. It'll look for any timing differences between the 3PLs are on a different time zone from our SAP system. Find out any timing differences. And the reason why the timing differences is something could have been sent just before midnight, and it'll come into our system maybe a little bit after midnight, and maybe sometimes it mostly takes a few minutes, but sometimes it would take, something's wrong, it would take longer than that, and that can cause inventory difference. And then if there's any transactional errors on our site, like the post-goods issue errors, and again, any receipts that are delayed. And our stock transfer order receipts are actually manual. We enter it manually. And so the person entering it could have been delayed. And then after it gets all this information, it sends an email with all the details of the document to the respective people for investigating further action. And again, this cut short, mostly we've been able to eliminate the morning meetings. People come in the morning and then immediately know what exactly needs to be done. Now, this is on the business side and tech side, IT side. And if there is nothing to be done, you don't need the meeting. So the bot just tells you that there's nothing to be, everything's good, right? So basically it's a huge efficiency gain and a speed resolution. So
thank you. Thank you, Santosh. I will share with all the glimpse of the bot execution. But key here is basically, as Santosh said, this is basically, it kind of took away all the time and the email back and forth across different stakeholders to reconcile the inventory between 3PL as well as what's there in the SAP system. So the bot execution time is around 15 to 20 minutes, but what we have done is, in the interest of the time, we have tried to compress it to 2.5 minutes. And let me try and share basically the execution. Give me one moment. Yes. Okay. So here is the bot execution happening for inventory reconciliation. And we are logging into the SAP system and downloading some of the reports as Santosh talked about. What's the inventory in the SAP system, and it is going through the cycles. It is downloading it in Excel, and there is certain filtering criteria defined based on what we are looking to compare. Similarly, it is going and looking at material document list and downloading the information. And once that is done, then basically these Excel files are compared, and if there is any discrepancy found in terms of the totals, and that's when the emails are sent out. So that is a set of activities which are happening across different reports. I'm just speeding it up. So we receive the emails, and these emails come in, and it's communicated to the stakeholders, right? And so then we'll talk about the next use case, which Santosh was covering.
Okay, can I answer? Yeah, sure. Can I answer a question that's come up on the reconciliations? The question is, does the reconciliation happen? This is regarding the reconciliation on the inventory. From the reconciliation happen the line item level or overall results. So we start with the overall results at the material level. At the material level, if it reconciles, then we don't do anything more. It's already reconciled. So if it doesn't reconcile, then we actually get into the line item by line item, because that's the only way you'll find what is missing. Okay, hope that answers the question. And there was one more question, if it's okay to answer. This has got to do with how, did you compare SAP? This from Eric. SAP iRPA. SAP iRPA versus other tools. So we only compared. We did get several demos on UiPath. I'm not saying that the product is bad, or it looked capable, it looked a thing, but the real advantage for us was SAP was already in-house. If I have to go with the UiPath, I have to evaluate the tool fully. Second thing is, it was another whole licensing agreement. We didn't have a relation with them. Whereas with SAP, honestly, I didn't spend any time on the licensing at all. It was there. So that really helped. And personally, this is me. I didn't think there was any reason for me to not go with this with the iRPA and look for further other tools. Okay, let's move to the next one. Order flow for Hybris ECC to IDOC. So this is a pretty more straightforward one. This is nothing but the IDOCs that sit in SAP. If there's any errors, we look at that by error type and handle it. And we did not try to correct all of them. Typically, what happens in real life is the business looks at it, and the business is the one who changes the order. Typically, tech will not make a change to an order thing. And what we do is we earlier would send an email to the business saying, these are all errored out because of this reason, fix it, right? So we only took certain types, which are straightforward fixes, which is absolutely no chance of errors. Very strict. If this is the problem, then do this. So we corrected, we would correct some of those, change some of those IDOCs to reflect, just like, for example, it came with the incorrect document category. So we would just change that and send it through, and it gets reprocessed. So that's what we did. And it doesn't address all the IDOCs. There are things like address issues that we don't really, the bot cannot do it because you need some human interference there. Maybe at some time later with AI, we could do that. But so we address a subset of that. So that's what it is. And the other thing that we did was every time there is an error, and because this is a business change, we would create a ServiceNow. ServiceNow is a ticketing platform. We would create a ticket. So the bot would trigger the creation of a ticket with the details there. And that way there is a record of what the bot changed. And then at the end of the run, we also send an email summary of all the orders that are modified. So you'll notice that we're being very careful about not having a bot go change things from a business point of view without a record. And again, if you're in the SOX environment and so on, you got to be a little bit careful about that. So I won't take too much time on the end. We're running out of time, but essentially we were able to automate the handling of errors for a fair number of the orders that IDOCs that are around.
Thank you, Santosh. I will quickly jump to Stephan. Sorry, we'll have to skip this demo. But Stephan, you have next 3 minutes. If you have more time, we'll come back to the demo.
Yeah, then thank you so much, Deepak. And then I will just try to wrap it up very quickly. But I wanted to, first of all, thank you too for presenting this, not only this case, but also for letting us participate in some of the background. On the one hand side, why choosing SAP Intelligent RPA, and on the other hand side, what are the benefits and the business results. So I think a time saving of more than 90% is pretty impressive, and this is exactly what customers are looking for, and what especially I think our partners are aiming at in order to help customers really reach these business goals. So I don't want to spend too many words on that. The content is already very rich, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that this is not all that we do together. So I know that there, especially in the US, but also in many other regions, there's a very extensive collaboration when it comes to jointly going for customer accounts, working with customers, but also from a support perspective and so on, and also a very viable feedback channel. Yeah, so I know that colleagues from NTT DATA are also participating in beta testing, are giving feedback in our activities like the partner consultation hour and so on. So there's really a very good collaboration on multiple aspects and in multiple teams and perspectives. So as I said, also enablement and knowledge sharing activities are jointly being defined, or at least driven, and also go-to-market activities. We have some initiative with NTT DATA, for example, in the Nordics, in Germany, started discussions and so on. So there's a couple of things going on, and I really sincerely hope and think, I'm very convinced that this will be even extended, and hopefully we will drive more customers to success, like Rodan Fields, and have more happy colleagues like Santosh, then who can also report their business goals and the results they have achieved. So one more thing that I want to highlight, because this is one of the activities that we're currently driving together, which is around partner content. So NTT DATA, one central innovation team in Europe, is currently working with us on piloting this process. And Deepak, if you could please go to the next slide, then we can see this is all around the content that we are providing. Currently, we have in Intelligent RPA a so-called bot store, which is a repository of pre-built and pre-configured automation parts, or automation templates, let's call it that way. And we already have quite a few there, most of them currently provided by SAP. As a Kickstarter, as an accelerator for projects, for working with customers and in specific project situations. But also we are currently working and as I said, piloting this amongst other trusted partners with NTT DATA, where we open this up for partner content. So that means partners can create automations, can create bot templates that they save, and they can upload the information about that to this bot store here, so that customers who are in searching for certain pieces of automation, or trying to find help for automating certain parts of their business or of a business process, that they can search this bot store, this repository, and find not only the respective content and maybe a bot template that will do or will serve their purpose, but also a trusted partner that they can contact and work with them in order to expand maybe. Because one thing that we found out in many project situations is that a lot of customers are starting rather small with 1, 2, 3 scenarios, but then as soon as they realize and see the benefits and realize the business potential, they start adding LOBs, they start adding scenarios, and then also go into more automation cases. Yeah? So this is a very beneficial thing, I think, for all of us. And I just wanted to close with saying that we hope that very soon we can also say that NTT Data bots are available on Intelligent RPA Bot Store, and as well featured on the official SAP store. So that's also quite a marketing platform in order to spread the word and get these things out. And I think if there are no questions or something, I would give it back to you, Deepak, where, I mean, you can check whether you still want to show this demo that you just mentioned. Otherwise, I would now open it up for a Q&A. And maybe we can do that in parallel. I think we have some time left. So let's see if we have some questions.
Yeah, so I would like to encourage everyone to also speak up and ask your question live. So when you hover over your name on the right side, you can unmute yourself. Or it's maybe also on the bottom of your screen when you raise your hand, and then I can help you to unmute. So if you want to speak up, please raise your hand now. And in the meanwhile, I agree, because there are no more questions. So I hand over to Deepak. I think you want to show your demo now.
Yes, give me one moment, please. So again, we are executing. Again, this is a recording. So there is, it has a runtime. We tried to shorten it from demo requirement perspective. So you should get into the system and look at all the iDocs which are stuck. Look at certain category and the status. So a lot of activities happening. As you can see, bot is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. And at the end, it will send out, as Santosh said, create ServiceNow tickets with details. Okay, so that is basically, that covers it. As you can see here, one thing which I'll leave with you is what we have been attempting to do is basically bring in a lot of intelligence in the bot, and also at the same time not doing one unit task, but a series of tasks together, and then also doing activities like reconciliation.
Sorry, Deepak, may I interrupt you? You are not sharing your screen at the moment.
Yes, no, I stopped sharing actually.
Okay.
So,
all right. I thought you wanted to go back to the presentation.
Yeah, so we just completed the execution. So the idea is basically that we are using iRPA not just for point tasks, but also combination of tasks and activities, and also for more intelligent activities like reconciliation of different reports, generally which is done by humans. So that is something which we think is advanced, and we are also have, what we have done additionally is we have used assets which are built on OCR or computer vision, and then we have or natural language processing, and we have tied it together to perform certain activities and certain tasks, not in Rodan Fields, but for some other different use cases. So there is a lot of potential for us to explore here. Over to you, Svea.
Okay.
Sorry, Svea.
Yeah, Stefan, no problem. Go ahead.
Maybe just to connect to that, and thank you very much for building that bridge, Deepak. That is very good that you're opening up and highlight that there's more potential, especially in the combination with other intelligent technologies like language processing. I guess chatbot and so on is also included in this area. I think this really gives a lot of potential for additional use cases. Maybe one question to Santosh and to you. Are there any plans to already extend the scenarios to build on top of that to deliver additional automations in Rodan Fields?
Absolutely. This is just, honestly, we just scratched the surface. This is our first thing to get something working, which is productive. And just for the benefit of that, as you start building it, just as an example that I gave about creating a ticket. So once you have built that, it takes a little bit of work to do that, because the work is not necessarily on the iRPA side, but you need to work with your let's say ServiceNow or ticketing team to be able to connect and get that automatically generated. So once you build that building block, then you can keep building on this with different, your next scenario, whatever the blocks that you have, you can just quickly leverage. So to answer your question, yeah. So next we would get into, we haven't fully used the OCR capabilities, like taking PDF documents and putting thing out of that. So that's the next area that we do that. And the next area we would again look into the financial area. I've been staying off the finance area because I didn't want to. I want to make sure everything's 100% okay before we start creating transactions on the finance side. So that's another area that we're going to start looking at. So honestly, there's a lot of potential, and also it's a different way of thinking, in the sense that once you start doing a couple of them, your mind starts working better in terms of how you can adapt this to provide efficiencies within the company. So yeah, in short, this is just a start. We have a lot more other areas like finance and even more value-added areas in terms of using AI and other things to build upon this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much, Santosh. I mean, this is really in line with what I also said earlier, that we made the experience that customers start small with a couple of selected scenarios and then from there expand. I mean, you raised two very important points. One is criticality. Of course, start with processes or process steps that are not absolutely business critical, but then of course expand into that area, because I mean, in the end, it's all about ensuring the business success, and therefore also at some point in time covering critical businesses. So maybe this is going a little bit too far, then please let me know, but I would be very curious what helped you to identify the right processes, and how did you kind of classify this criticality, where you say, okay, this is a process that we want to maybe cover in the second or third step, and this is one that we want to cover in the first phase.
So we listed, we didn't explore the whole company and pick all of that. We took about 10 cases, I think, use cases that we could start off with. And then of the 10, we identified things that are taking away, which will improve efficiencies at the same time, not really create too much of disruption if the startup goes wrong or something like that. So that's the way we identified it. So benefit in terms of improving efficiency across multiple people working on it. And that's what I said earlier, which we addressed those which require touch points from multiple people. And we thought that was the biggest efficiency gains, even though it doesn't translate to hours of labor directly. So that's how we prioritized it. Yeah. And yeah, slowly we'll start getting into the high volume ones and so on.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't know if they answered your question fully, but
absolutely, it helped a lot.
A lot of it was judgment call as well.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Santosh.
Thank you too from my side. So there have been someone who raised the hand, but as you asked another question, it stopped. So we note, if you still want to ask your question, I can give you 3 minutes. Okay, here we go. I allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself now and speak.
Hello, thank you for giving the insights. And my question was about the OCR capabilities, and I think Santosh has covered it.
Okay, perfect. So there is no more question from you then. That's great. Always happy when our speaker already answered the questions. Thank you
Thank you.
for speaking up. All right, then we are almost at the top of the hour. And yeah, I can only thank you for having been part to our SAP community calls. And it's always great to have also partner and customer examples in the calls. So big thank you to Deepak and Santosh and of course Stephan as well. I'm going to share the recording very soon. I have put the links in the chat and thanks to the audience for joining and tuning in today. And I hope to see you somewhere in the SAP community when you follow the tags SAP Intelligent RPA and have a look into the topic page. Thanks very much to everyone. Have a great rest of the day or a good evening and talk to you soon somehow.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye now.
Bye.